Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
This week has begun on a very newsy note. For today's Cut the Clutter, I am choosing two stories. I will talk about one in some detail, that's the Prime Minister's statement on nuclear weapons, and second on the news coming out of the Chief Justice of India's court. So first of all, the Prime Minister's statement. As you know, he made this statement in campaign rhetoric, anybody saying anything these days, that Pakistan returned Wing Commander Vardhaman so quickly because India let them know that if they don't do it, then dire consequences would visit them. All right, I would prefer if these tactical issues also are not made part of the campaign rhetoric, but if you did it, credit to you, the fact is he came back very quickly, you can talk about it. But then he goes on to say that Pakistan has used nuclear blackmail against India. Every time something happens, they say we have the nuclear button, we have the nuclear button. This time we called their nuclear bluff. Again, so far so good. India did call Pakistan's nuclear bluff because for too long, in fact since 1987, in fact I have written a new edition of Factivist which you should read. I have given examples of 1987, 1990, two occasions when Pakistan clearly used the nuclear blackmail against India when its weaponized nuclear asset was much more reliable than India's. India's weaponization program was a few years behind Pakistan's. From then on, after the 1998 tests, this blackmail has not really worked, and I talk about those three things. So Pakistanis believed even now that because they have nuclear weapons, India cannot use its conventional military power against them if in retaliation for terror attacks in India. Now, India has conventional superiority over Pakistan, but because of the nuclear deterrent, Pakistanis thought even if India does something, it will remain confined to line of control in Kashmir. So even the surgical strikes after the Uri attack were confined to some areas across the line of control in Kashmir, in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. This time, Modi government broke that voodoo. Modi government, by carrying out attacks inside Pakistani mainland, made it clear that India is no longer worried about Pakistan's nuclear weapons, in the sense that India no longer believes that Pakistan will use them or can use them very early in a conflict. And also that just as it might be Pakistan's deterrent for India, it's also India's deterrent against Pakistan. That is an achievement for Modi government. For now, for him to say that Pakistanis use this nuclear blackmail, then why do we have our nuclear weapons? वो दिवाली पे पटाखे चलाने के लिए तो नहीं है ना. They are not to be used as crackers on Diwali. Now, obviously, nuclear weapons can't be used as crackers on Diwali or on Shab-e-Barat, as Musharraf talked, or now Mehbooba Mufti has joined in and said, if Mr. Modi says India's nukes are not for Diwali, Pakistan's are not for Eid, so what do you expect? India uses its nukes on the Pakistanis on Eid and Pakistan uses its nukes on Indians on Diwali. Just think of the ridiculousness of this situation. Nuclear weapons are very serious business. Since 1945, no country has used nuclear weapons. No country talks loosely of using nuclear weapons. The countries that do it are called rogue states or irresponsible countries. What is the best example of that? These days it's North Korea, because anytime they want leverage in their negotiations with America, they either fire another missile or they look like they are resuming their nuclear weapons program. But the most persistent usual suspect in this is Pakistan, because Pakistan has used nuclear blackmail against India and in some ways against the rest of the world also, that if you don't come and do something in the subcontinent, there will be a war which will go nuclear. So Pakistan has used this blackmail several times against India in the past. In 1987, during exercise Brass Tacks, after which Rajiv Gandhi announced or gave clearance for a full weaponization of Indian nuclear technology. In 1990, in the summer of 1990, when India was under VP Singh and our forces were again piled up on the borders and live ammunition had been issued. Then Sahibzada Yaqub Khan, the Pakistani foreign minister, came to India, and the story goes that he told his Indian counterpart, Inder Gujral, that if you go to war now, remember your rivers, your mountains, your forests will see the fire that they've not seen before. And it was answered firmly but diplomatically by Mr. Gujral, who said कि याकूब साहब मुझे पता नहीं आप क्या बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जिन दरियाओं का पानी आपने पिया है उन्हीं का हमने पिया है. That we've been nurtured on the waters of the same rivers as you, which is a Punjabi's way of telling a fellow Punjabi that look, this will be tit for tat. But the fact is that Pakistan was ahead of India. This then changed in the following years. So 1999, Vajpayee did not bother about Pakistan's nuclear weapons, but Vajpayee had its own strategic and tactical objectives, and it suited him and suited India to keep that Battle of Kargil confined across the LOC, and not cross the LOC, but along the LOC. Similarly, during Op Parakram, he held his nerve and did not even respond to the Pakistanis, even when Musharraf launched one missile after the other during that standoff and gave all those missiles fancy names after Islamic conquerors and invaders of the subcontinent, Gauri, Ghazni, Abdali, Babur, God knows what else. In fact, at that point, in one of the press briefings, the MEA spokesperson, who was then Nirupama Rao, she later became Foreign Secretary, she was asked about these missile tests, and she gave that famous and, in my view, an epic reply, "We are not impressed." And it got Musharraf really furious, and he said, how can that lady say we are not impressed? These are nuclear weapons. But that was the way India had learned to take Pakistani threats in its stride. But yes, one thing that wasn't done was India's conventional military was not used inside Pakistani mainland to then actively call this bluff. Principally, this had been called. Modi government has done it, for which it deserves credit. But now from then to talk loosely of nuclear weapons is not something that looks good for a leader of India. India has built a solid reputation as a responsible nuclear state. As I said earlier, no country in the world talks irresponsibly of nuclear weapons anymore, maybe except North Korea and sometimes Pakistan. But Pakistan also has been chastened. You would remember that on Feb 26, after the attack in Balakot, Pakistan's military spokesman, who was a garrulous big mouth, Major General Asif Ghafoor, he had made a statement that Pakistan's National Command Authority is meeting, and you know what that means. And he said that with a smirk, which means that nuclear weapons are being readied. But something happened, somebody hit him on the head, and he did not say it again, because Pakistan has also now understood that it doesn't have the option of scaring India with nuclear weapons. That point made, it is, in my view, it will be prudent for Government of India and the Prime Minister of India to not talk about this and not drag this in the campaign rhetoric. Because you can say, I will not, my weapons are not for Diwali. Musharraf had said, my weapons are not for Shab-e Barat. Why should Indian Prime Ministers descend to the level of General Musharraf, who I think was one of the least, I would say the least strategically and politically literate leaders of the subcontinent, and is paying for his stupidities. Indian Prime Ministers should not descend to that level. And now Mehbooba Mufti is also joined in with her Eid remark. So all this, we should calm down on this. These issues should be kept out of the campaign. That is my concluding point. Now, very briefly on what happened in the CJI's court on Saturday. Now, a woman who worked in the Supreme Court and for some time even in the CJI's office, also at his home, has written a long affidavit or letter which she has sent to 22 serving judges of Supreme Court of India, where she has made serious allegations of sexual harassment against the Chief Justice of India. So this caused a sensation. Chief Justice of India assembled a bench that he handpicked of 3 judges which sat down to look at this. Basically, they dismissed all allegations. They did not take any decisions or give an order, but discredited the complainant and also issued a kind of appeal to the media that we leave it to your good sense to decide whether to publish this stuff or not. And the Chief Justice also said that there is an effort to undermine the office of the Chief Justice of India without specifying what happened. Now, I do understand the CJI being angry if these allegations are wrong, and he is right, he is fully within his rights to say that these allegations are wrong. But the fact is, a woman has made these allegations. Now, the procedure of dealing with these allegations is set. Organizations have internal complaints committees. This complaint should go to that committee. In fact, even the complainant should have first gone to the committee instead of writing to 22 judges and releasing it to the media. That raises some questions, but those questions are not the main questions right now. The question is what to do with this complaint. So my view would have been that Chief Justice should have stayed out of this. He should have, if he wanted to, he should have sent this complaint to the Supreme Court's ICC, which is headed by a woman judge of the Supreme Court. Or even if he called a bench, he should not have been on the bench. Now, for clarity, I have to say that whatever orders the bench issued that day or whatever statements, the Chief Justice did not sign them. Only the other 2 judges signed them. But by sitting on that bench, I think he's not handled it well. So that was a mistake. It was a shot fired in anger. He should have avoided it. Chief Justice of India is an exalted office. Its prestige is very important for everybody. So while nobody should be able to undermine it with any frivolous or motivated allegations, at the same time, nobody should be denied justice for personal dignity or safety just because of the stature of the person she is complaining against. Because remember, what is it that the judges always say? May you ever be so high, the law is above you. So there was a method here to make sure, one, that the CJI's office was protected and he continued working, because that woman is no longer in his office. So there was no need even for him to go to leave or for him to be separated with the complainant because she is not there anymore. And second, for her to get justice with the court's ICC. And I am still hoping that something like that will be done. But overall, a very sad day in the history of Indian judiciary.